field so that we can take that. If someone's looking for a blue t-shirt that's medium, you don't want blue t-shirt that's medium in the description. You want medium and blue t-shirt or color blue in item specifics. And so that's the goal. So you can still have templates that might have like design and stuff. I would discourage it only for two reasons. One is structured data is going to drive where the buyer is going to find the item. And then the second one is mobile. How many people use mobile devices to shop? Templates don't render as well on mobile as they do on desktops. And so you should be moving away from using like a lot of graphics and things like that in your view item. You want to just get to the text that they need.
So don't even put information inside the listing.
No, you should, and you still can. You still can write a description. And if you're using a template, the description that will show up inside the template. The information from the catalog will not be inserted into your description area. It's inserted into a separate area, either the item specifics and or a technical specification box right under. You may have seen these, for example, in electronics, but we never insert anything in your description yourself, so that'll still be there.
We'll do one more question on this topic, and then I'm going to have to move to the next topic.
Will there be other determining factors for which items are at the top besides lowest price? Will like top rated seller plus be at the highest, or how is there things related to that?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
It's not a factor, unless everything else is equal. So if you have two items.
Check out the spread.
Factor.
Top rated seller.
Right.
So if you had two exact items.
With the exact same price, and they were being, and the shipping was the same, then there may be another factor in the algorithm, which could be whether or not one of the sellers is top-rated seller status. But top-rated seller status alone is not going to give you an advantage in the product experience.
Hello.
Best bet.
I got a comment, not a spread over here.
Sorry.
Not necessarily a question, but this is super great because I sell mostly on Amazon, and I know that this is how the customer thinks, right? They search for an Nest thermostat, there's 450 listings, they just go, oh my God. A lot of people might not even buy one because they just have to dig through all these different listings.
Exactly.
But if you have an algorithm and you have one listing and it's cohesive, the conversion rate is going to be much higher. There's going to be more sales overall. So this is great. I'm very excited about this.
Great to hear, and glad for that feedback. Glad to hear that feedback. And the team's done a whole bunch of research, a whole bunch of testing on this, and continue to do this. We're walking into it. 14 product lines to start with, and then we'll just continue to roll out additional product lines throughout the rest of the year.
Well,
So,
but it's two, it's not just the price, you have to make sure you're.
In this case, this is, yeah, if you think about Best Match, it's kind of like that, but it's a little more focused because this is, Best Match was a solved sort for the old way of eBay presenting search results as a listing experience where, oh, I'm searching for Disney. Oh, good, now I only have 3.5 million listings to scroll through. I guess I'll go make a cup of coffee. To the product-based experience, which focuses in on a product, not a listing per se. So there is a listing that's being displayed up here, but it's part of a wider array of absolutely identical products. Some may be used, some may be new, some may be refurbished. So in order to get to that position, my own experimentation shows it's primarily price. So if you're not the lowest price, you will show up where it says see others, if there's one here, to click on and see, see all of the others. But if you want to be in the top here, your price has to be low, the lowest. Now, that being said, this is only applicable to items that can be easily entered currently into structured data. If you're selling apparel, Regina.
You sell a lot of brand new Michael Kors bags?
Yes, but, or Michael Kors bags, do they have UPC codes? Yeah, so you should be putting those in so you can get on there. But if you're selling used apparel where you don't have the UPC code, it is going to be a long, long time before we're going to start requiring that because it's just really hard to find. One-of-a-kind items, We'll find a way eventually, a very eBay way of serving those up in a way that's effective for both buyer and seller. But this particular experience isn't going to work well for those because there's no way to identify a wide range of identical items without some identifier. And we don't yet actually create the identifier. We may in the future. So for example, if I'm selling a Tory Richard shirt, which I want to do because I love them, there's just no way a product page for those can be created right now because there's so many and so many U codes, and if it's pre-owned, you don't have the UPC code. It's really hard to find that, if not impossible. So that's a big challenge moving forward. Because I know there's a lot of people in the room. How many of you sell one-of-a-kind merchandise? There's a lot of you. You don't have anything to worry about.
Thank you for that, Griff. And I think we'll move to another, let's move, scroll down, so we move to the next topic. So, go back, sorry, I went back up. So the other thing that we do, how many of you have seen us do category and classification changes? The main thing I want to say is these normally are pretty innocuous and they just happen. Most sellers don't even know they happen. The only thing that I would say is if you find that something within your particular category, and these are the categories that we've made changes, if you click on one of these links, it will take you to a page that I don't want Griff to show, because it basically looks like a big Excel spreadsheet, because we're looking at the leaf level categories, and then we highlight which ones were changed, which ones were moved, which ones were combined, etc. The only thing that I would say is if you're an expert in your particular category and you see something that we've done to the category structure that you disagree with, please let us know. But most of the time, these things have been, the changes that are recommended are changes that have, we've vetted with sellers within each one of the key verticals. And then down.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That was crazy though.
And then listing in two categories. Who listed in two categories? A couple people, so I'm going to just spend a couple seconds on this one. So in the past, what we did with this was if you listed in two categories and you picked as your first listing type, the one with the lowest final value fee, and the most likely one was the second choice or second category that you selected, and it had a higher fee, we charge you on your primary, or the one that you picked first. After May 1st, we will charge you on the one with the highest final value fee. So straightforward, nothing else on that one. So let's scroll up and go to the next one, the next topic.
Oh, all the way up.
Yeah.
Such an effort. I'm exhausted. Shipping enhancements. Is that the next one?
EGD? Yeah, let's scroll up a little. They don't need to see the big, or scroll down. So how many of you are familiar with eBay Guaranteed Delivery? How many are in it? How many are using it now? How many want to? So we're expanding how many sellers can get access to eBay Guaranteed Delivery. When a buyer is searching on the site, and you can see this on the mobile device right now, there's a little toggle switch that says, get the item within 3 days, and if a buyer clicks on that, we only show items that are within Guaranteed Delivery. And that means the buyer has an option, and sometimes it's a paid option, to get the item quickly. What we're doing is expanding the number of sellers that can get access to this. We had limited it initially last fall. It's now going to be open to any seller who has at least 100 transactions in the last 12 months and maintains less than a 3% late shipment rate, and has an tracking upload rate of 95%. So those are things that require, you need to have those standards to be top rated. So that's basically the threshold. So if you're in that threshold of top rated and you've done 100 transactions, you can get access to eBay Guaranteed Delivery. This should be good news for most sellers. And I'm going to let you talk about it.
Well, thank you, Brian, because this is the new label experience that's coming, and this will be the first update to our label printing platform in quite a while. And normally I'm a little bit skeptical, not about when we make a change like this, but the effectiveness and the reaction from sellers. But I have a hard time after I viewed this for the first time on Friday, finding any fault with it. I really do love the way it's laid out graphically, especially this part on the top where you can select the exact kind of parcel that you're creating. We find that with new sellers and sometimes with experienced sellers, I just had one this week, there's confusion about what qualifies and what services match an envelope, a padded envelope, a legal envelope, and maybe a large envelope. Because USPS, for example, says large envelope or package. Well, there's no real indication right there, so people get confused and they may have a small envelope, they'll pick large envelope, and they'll get a set of expensive rates, or vice versa, and then find that they're short postage. When it comes time, actually purchasing the label, the buyer would have paid $3 and it was supposed to be $7. So this will make it a lot easier for sellers to select the right parcel option. And then underneath here, once you've selected what you're going to do, it'll show you the options available. So with the envelope, you have if you're going to ship an envelope priority, the only options available are priority flat rate and priority express. So if you're offering priority mail and you chose envelope, these are the two services that will show up and it will give you the price comparison. So in this particular case, that's an envelope. You know that sometimes you have a small box and maybe it's 2 or 3 pounds, maybe it's a pair of shoes. Sometimes, depending where the buyer is, it might be cheaper to ship it flat rate medium as opposed to priority. But the only way you know that now is to click on the compare services link and see it in a pop-up window. Now it'll be right in front of you. So you can select the right, the method that's gonna work best for you and your buyer right here.
How many of you use eBay label printing?
Oh, neat.
Can you click on pattern?
How many of you would like to be able to do this comparison and would find it valuable?
Yes, that's good.
Cool.
And then there's a
On the
question
boxes, how do you know
before-
what's small, medium, large? Because right now, you just put in the dimensions and.
So if I click small box, can that be a regular small box or does it have to be a priority?
No, it can be just small box, and then underneath, it will show you the options available for the classes of service that you offered the buyer or that the buyer has selected.
And Griff, I don't know
If you heard the question up front, but it's like the definition of small box, medium box, large box. I don't know the answer to that. I can check with someone on our shipping team, but I think we'll definitely have that defined. But I don't know if you know the answer to what are the dimensions of small, what are the dimensions of medium, what are the dimensions of large.
So once you're in the box area, there's really no, there's no single delineation, because what happens for USPS is they actually do use the size of the box past a certain size and weight for what's called dimensional weight. Right, so we don't know that, but when you list the item, you should be, or at the time you're printing the label, you're entering in the dimensions of the box. So that will stand for the rates itself. Yeah, you're still gonna have to enter the dimensions, yeah.
Do a question back there, and then I'll come up here.
Can you click on padded envelope for me?
Well, so this
This
is
is a
not,
mock.
this is a graphic.
Oh, it's just a graphic.
Yeah.
Okay, so just recently, for some reason, there's no longer a Priority Mail Express padded envelope on eBay, but it's still on PayPal.
Don't know.
So it just disappeared, like maybe in the last month or two.
I will say hi to Robin,
Priority Mail Express.
but I can't type to you guys, and she's on the other side
Oh,
of the
right,
room,
right,
so it would be distracting.
So it was there last year, it's not there now.
Huh.
So when I get an order now, I go to PayPal and print it.
So you said Priority Express
Hi,
padded
Robin.
Right,
is not available. So I'll take it back to the shipping.
it's gone, it was there.
Okay.
For some reason, and the
Someone took it.
interface hasn't changed, so I couldn't figure out, and I was gonna go to the USPS website and print it, and then I discovered that, hey, it's still on PayPal.
And that's within eBay label print.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'll take that one back to our shipping team. I don't know the specifics of that.
Yeah, I've not heard that.
What about the regional rate A, B, and C?
Well, C no longer exists.
Okay, I use a lot of regional rate A.
Yeah.
There's two different sizes.
Right.
Would you have that?
So it's.
So you can select those up here now. See in the last two, regional box A, regional box B.
Oh, good, okay.
Right. But that's at the label printing end of it. So there's not an option for providing buyers that option before, and there's a reason why. Because we don't know where that buyer is going to be, and they could end up, if we gave them that as an option, they could end up selecting it and having you end up spending more money. Because the regional boxes are only a viable option when you're over a certain weight, like if you're selling 7 or 8 pounds of stuff in a box. They're very good for books, yeah, but they're not good for shirts.
Okay, so we're gonna move to the,
I have a quick question, whether or not that'll be in the shipping, whether or not you're gonna have a toggle for charging insurance.
No.
Why not?
That's, oh, a toggle for you to,
So you can say that there's a insurance.
for the buyer?
Yeah.
Never.
Never.
We have money back guarantee.
It becomes extraordinarily confusing when sellers, and that's why we actually prohibited several years ago, when we came out with the money back guarantee, is that buyers, we were marketing to buyers that we got your back, whether it's by making the seller recompense the buyer in a situation, or whether eBay does it. The buyer doesn't have to worry about their purchases on eBay. If something goes wrong and the seller doesn't address it, eBay has your back. By saying that sellers can then charge buyers insurance, the buyers are saying, wait a minute, why am I paying insurance? I'm covered by eBay money back guarantee. So the insurance options that are available on the print label flow are for you, but you're not allowed to pass that cost on to a buyer as a broken out line item. If you want to include in your margin or your shipping costs, you want to pad it if it's a flat rate, or a handling charge to cover insurance, that's up to you. Do it with caution. Remember that if your shipping costs are more expensive than your competitors, that's going to be a disadvantage for you in trying to find buyers. But we don't we haven't for years now, let sellers charge insurance as a separate line item. Are you all right?
What's the next one, growth?
growth tools. And Jordan's here, so maybe she'll answer some questions as well. So scroll down. I got it right this time, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
So key thing here, there's a few bullets on this one. So how many of you use Seller Hub? Very good. How many don't know what Seller Hub is? Okay. So Seller Hub's a tool on eBay on the eBay site that allows you to manage your listings, as most of you understand. And so there's some things that we're doing. We're enhancing the pricing guidance, so we're basically expanding the number of items and the number of the type of inventory that we will provide pricing guidance. How many of you have ever gotten something where we're giving you pricing guidance? So you don't like it. Why don't you like it?
Saying, oh, you have this price, but wait, we should have this price, and I don't like that.
Okay, so we'll take that feedback back to the team, but a couple things on this. So, and Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think that one of the biggest benefits of this is that API, so what we basically allows large tools that large sellers or high velocity sellers use, something like Channel Advisor or those tools. This information is now going to be fed via the API to those tools.
Sorry, I can't take that one. I'm on metrics and benchmarks.
Oh, I'm sorry. So in essence, if you think about like Seller Hub today, if you have access to Seller Hub, we're giving you that pricing guidance. If you're on a third-party tool, you might not be accessing Seller Hub. The API basically allows us to push that information out to those third-party tools. So someone who's actually in, let's say, Channel Advisor can actually consume the information that we're actually providing to our sellers in Seller Hub within the environment that they use to list on eBay. And so that's a big benefit, because even if you don't like the pricing guidance that we're giving you, it is additional information. And for some sellers who can use it, they'll be able to take advantage of it. The other component on this one is promoted listings. How many of you use promoted listings? So if you haven't used them, I encourage you to at least explore or try using it, but we're gonna increase the placements. We'll also have a homepage placement for promoted, or placements for promoted listings. And then we're also enhancing the reporting and the campaign management for the item, or for promoted listings.
I guess what we need is a, oh, shut up, you big button. When you see a price you don't like, price guide, just shut up. Who wants to know just shut up people? Yeah, not for reasons you want, I'm talking about price guide.
Do they have promoted listings in the motors, eBay motors?
I don't think so, not
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I know Todd Medeiros, and so, well, he's got P&A. So we do have it in we have it in parts and accessories, but yeah.
I have a question. If you run out of stock, and can you add it back into your campaign, promoted listing, like add it, you come back into stock? I had an item I just ran out of stock, and I had a promoted listing, now it says 0. So, but I have more stock now. So I wonder, can you?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody else on staff, the eBay staff, knows the answer. Rather than having to go, so I think you probably have to go create a new campaign, but unless somebody knows for sure, or Griff might be able to go try it.
Woo-hoo, I sold 3 items. I have, unfortunately, I think, I don't have any that are out of stock. But we'll take that back to the team and ask. I think, if you're promoting a listing, I think the promotion
continues as long as the promoted listing campaign duration. And if you add something to the site that matches the qualifiers in the promoted campaign, so if it was a particular item category or it was a title, I think it might actually continue, but I'm not absolutely sure. Or if you add it to that item, I think it continues, but I need to get verification. I can't see why it wouldn't. A good question. I love these meetups because I always get stumped, and I love getting stumped. The last thing I love hearing is, "Oh, that Griff, he knows everything." It's not true.
So I think the ordinance, I'm talking about seller metrics.
But you have to get back to the page.
How do I get to the promoted? So I'll show you, it's right here.
If you're in Seller Hub and you go to Marketing, there's a drop-down box and then there's a link right here to Promoted Listing. And that'll take you to the Promoted Listings page where you can create a campaign. So the dashboard's on top, but you can create a new campaign at any time just by clicking this button. And it's pretty intuitive if you start it. It kind of walks you through it. Do you want to select listings in bulk or select them individually? I'll say individually. And then recommended listings, you can ask to show recommending, but I'm not going to do that. So then I can go through and choose the ones that I'm going to, all of them, apparently, no. Some of these shirts, I gotta go. Look at this ugly thing. It really is a piece of crap. I don't know why I'm still
Putting out his misery and fire.
It's a long sleeve polo shirt with one of those huge honking gold embroidered things on the chest. Yeah, but not me. Everyone loves it. So I'm really discerning. So everyone loves everything eventually, but I have to like it or I can't sell it because I look at it and go, So that shirt has to go. Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll add $5.
What does that mean, recommended?
It's just
recommending you to put it in there?
Yeah, it's eBay recommending stuff. So you can hit the shut up eBay.
What's your name?
It could be a Rosie Perez button.
Mighty Mushroom.
Says,
A Mighty
"No,
Mushroom.
you shut up. No, you shut up.
So before we jump to metrics, I just want to emphasize, so the things with promoted listings, so expanding it on the visibility on the homepage, and we're enhancing the reporting, so that you guys, if you're running campaigns, you're gonna be able to like better understand how those campaigns are working. And then,
He should get a notification.
I don't want to talk just yet about stores.
New visibility into the status of buyers' after sale requests. So talking about price guides.
We talked
This is
about
how long it takes to buy something on eBay. This is the problem. This is the problem we have to solve right here.
You want to take it, Jordan?
Yeah. So as part of this announcement, we are going to be rolling out some new metrics and benchmarks, specifically item not as described returns, and also items significantly not as described. So you guys all know what those are. When a buyer files a claim, you have these 6 different return types, and we're excluding the remorse returns. But we want to share the item, we're calling them item not as described returns, and share those metrics with you so that you can kind of just manage maybe transactions that aren't meeting buyer expectations. And the reason we want to share those is some of them might be operational, like an item that gets returned for like missing parts. What we see on the back end is, a lot of times it's the same item that's getting returned. And so just by providing that extra visibility to you, you can operationally maybe remove an item from a list or pull that listing until you're able to correct the issue. So we just want to provide some additional metrics that will help you guys just improve conversion overall. So that'll be, in this announcement, we're just announcing what these new metrics are gonna be. And then in June, those metrics will be available in the Seller Hub if you guys are opted into that. And then there'll also be transaction level reporting, where you'll be able to see all of the transactions by those return types.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting to be able to have comparative metrics. So if you're performing a certain way, you're looking at what's the benchmark, and we'll give you that information compared to everyone else in the platform. What's the item not received rate, or what's the significantly not as described rate for those items against,
within your vertical. So comparing you with your peers in the same category, selling the same types of inventory. So if you're getting a lot of returns, and maybe a really low returns, you can see kind of where you are on the spectrum. So.
Yeah. It's nice to understand how you're performing compared to sellers in the marketplace. Cool. Thank you. And I think we're going to jump to stores.
eBay stores.
Who has an eBay store? Most? So I'll start with the big change here. So we announced 2 new store tiers, a starter tier and what we call an enterprise tier. And I think there's a good graphic of it, which I can just keep going. There it is. So there's a starter tier. So we've had basic, premium, and anchor. Those don't change. There's now a starter tier at $4.95 a month if you sign up for a 1-year plan. And for starter, you get 100 free listings. So if you don't have a store today, you get 50 free listings effectively, and the 51st one, there's a fee. The fee today is 30 cents, and it's going to go to 35. I got to double check my math. It might come up in a second. The basic store, premium, anchor, are existing stores types that we have. There's not much change there, except on basic store, the monthly fee will go up $2 a month starting on May 1st. The insertion fee above your 250 free insertion fees will go to 30 cents for basic from 25 cents today. Premium and anchor don't change, and then enterprise is a new introduction where we've got some really high volume sellers who are listing over 100,000 or up to like 100,000 listings. And this provides them an entry point for up to 100,000 listings for no insertion fee. And that's where I expect everyone in this room to be a year from now. Who's aspiring? Okay. You're aspiring. So exciting. I mean, one of the things that we hear a lot from, or we've heard a lot from our community over the years, the community of sellers, is, hey, there need to be other options within the store tiers. And so whenever you have any limitation, there's always going to be someone saying, gosh, I wish you had one in between X group. And we've heard some of that today, especially around premium to anchor. And so we've taken that back to the team. But I think this provides some additional options that will help sellers on the low end get started on eBay that in a more cost-effective way. And the reality is on all of these, as a seller, I encourage you to take a look at the economics of the store that you're in, and which is the store level that best serves your needs, and look at it from a couple vantage points. One is there's a pure economics component, but then also don't forget there's access to promoted listings on both on some of them. There's also additional things like shipping supplies if you're taking care of or taking advantage of those benefits. That was the main piece on stores.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Because I talked through the percentage.
So, but there's the second bullet point here, which is important.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. I almost forgot. You want to talk to him?
I do, because it's a topic near and dear to mine.
So it's been quite a while since we've updated the store's look and feel. We did release about 4 or so years ago, maybe 5 years ago now, something called the new store design. The idea that was supposed to ultimately be the only store format, but we kept the old format as well. I don't know why, we just did. So you'll notice if you're shopping around stores, sometimes you'll see sellers with the new format and then some sellers with the old format. So we're going to clean that experience up, and starting in May, we'll be beginning to update the entire store inventory of sellers' stores to provide this better shopping experience. And it's going to be 2 points here. It'll help with search engine optimization. So right now, when the old store format was built, search engines like Google depended heavily on meta tags in order to create their searches. They no longer use those. Now they use product identifiers for commodities for shopping site. So we'll be matching that now with the new format. It will make stores searchable for shopping. And the other thing is that the experience will be a lot better on mobile, because right now there's no mobile optimization for stores. So you can start seeing this in May. I can't wait. It's been way overdue, but it'll be definitely a step up in the stores game.
The only thing that I'll add is if you've got a store, and you have no customization in your store, you haven't done HTML, or you haven't hired a company to make changes, you'll automatically get your store migrated over. If you've hired someone to do a whole bunch of fancy graphics or something like that in your store, we will not automatically migrate you over. So almost 90% of the stores will get migrated over on their own. You don't need to do anything, you'll just get the benefit. If you've done something that's customized, you can evaluate manually. Do you want to move to the new store environment after it becomes live? Or later this year, we'll have additional information about how store owners who've customized their stores can migrate to the new experience.
Can you just scroll down as here below as an example?
The new eBay store design will look similar to eBay's homepage and other categories. Pages, this is an example of the new eBay store shopping experience. So it's almost like the homepage, only it's just for your items. So when you hand that URL out to people and they're using mobile, they can go right on mobile to your store. Yes.
So I had just kind of a couple of general questions on stores, if you don't mind me
Sure.
asking, because I spoke to one of the customer service reps, and I was a little confused by the information I got. So, I should probably save some money on my fees if I switch over, never less than $150 a month, and it's usually about $200 to $350 a month in fees.
And you currently don't have a store?
And I currently don't have a store.
Okay.
And I was gonna do the promotion you guys had last month, I didn't do it. But I didn't understand, so if I sign up for an annual store, do I pay the whole thing up front?
No. You pay you pay the annual rate you pay it monthly, but it's it's a discounted rate if you commit for a year.
Okay, and he said, the guy on the phone said something about, you don't get the discount on the auctions until they renew or something like that. So all my auctions are set to like, what do you have? It was like, where they just constantly renew themselves? Like
And do you use actual auctions or you use fixed price?
No, everything's fixed price,
Okay.
but it automatically renews every month.
Good till canceled.
Yeah,
So you use good till canceled.
Right, so I do everything until canceled. And he was saying, well, if you sign up for a store today, you can be aware you gotta pay at least 2 months up front. He said. And you gotta pay the first month and the last month. And he says, and you won't get a discount on any of the sales, on any of your items that sell on auctions that haven't gotten to the ending point and restarted again.
You mean fixed price?
Yeah.
Yeah, be careful when you use those two words, they're two separate formats and pricing.
Well, yeah, it's all fixed price. I don't have any options at all.
So I've never heard of the first and last fee.
You can rent my store.
So I apologize for that information. It sounds like if you would have been given different information, maybe you'd already be on a store. And so you'd sign, let's say you pick the annual fee, and let's say you pick the basic level. You would start paying us, starting on May 1st, the $21.95 per month, and you'd pay that for the 12 months. And then you would start to get the discounts on, say, listing. So let's say you list more than 250 items. You would start paying an insertion fee on the 251st if you list more than that. And then on the back end, on the final value fees, there's a discount on final value fees.
But does it matter, when do you start getting the discount on the final value?
The minute, anything that sells after you subscribe to the store.
So there's nothing about that you have to end, because he was saying you end your auctions and start them again.
Don't use that word, end your fixed price listings.
No, why would you ever want to do that? I'd have to go recreate it
You don't
from
have to end
scratch.
your listings.
I've never heard that. And so
I don't know where that's.
so the thing is, I mean, Griff's email address, if you don't have mine, I'll give it to you right now. It's just bburke@ebay.com, bburke@ebay.com.
Okay.
If you do it and you have the experience that the rep told you, please let us know.
Okay, because I actually tried to call and ask somebody about it around Christmas when you had the promotion, but then I couldn't get through to anybody, so.
So the moment you're.
And then you get stores and you can take advantage of things like promoted listings, take advantage of shipping supplies, other things.
The minute you subscribe to a store, any sales you make after that are subject to the rules of the store. So if you sell something in a category where the final value fee gets a discount, that happens right away, after you subscribe. There's no waiting period, you don't pay 2 months in advance, there's not a cleaning deposit. So I'd love to find out which reference.
Okay.
Apologize that you got that information.
That was great.
Unless we started asking, requiring cleaning deposits.
Maybe he has a side hustle going on I'm not aware of.
You're right, I would have signed up. I was ready to sign up, and I'm like, well, gee, this sounds complicated.
No, it's fine.
I was actually going to ask you if I edit an auction, does it change the start date? And never mind, I guess I don't care about that.
Sir.
I've had a store for quite a while, and I remember back in the day, there used to be a chart that tells you how many listings you needed to have in order for a certain store to pay off. Do you guys still have that chart?
So we do, however, I would, as we're moving towards five store tiers, we don't have a version of it ready for the 5 stores, but I'd say, if you're at least halfway decent with Excel, you could go in and see how many listings do you do a month? Are you cresting the free listing limit? Also look on the back end on the final value fee discounts that you get based on the average selling price of the item. I think every business is gonna need to like take a look at your
Somebody, I think on our eBay radio group this morning, published a chart right here.
And the only thing that I would say on this is it's purely the financial side. It's again, not talking about the benefits of like access to promoted listings or the store itself or things like free shipping supplies, or if you're up at anchor level, credits for promoted listings.
And you can download this if you join the eBay Radio Facebook group. Do it today. Do it right now on your phone. Go ahead. We'll get 90 new registers. It's great.
But I would also encourage, I'd say, use this as a starting point. You've got to look at your average selling price as well and see what are the discounts that you get on the, every category's got a different final value fee. So take a little bit of time and look at which store tier best fits your business model, and also think about it as it fits it today, but think about where you're taking your business over the next year. Like, you don't want to be hamstrung by picking too low a tier. If you're growing your business right now, let yourself grow into that higher level tier.
I got a question.
Yes.
So I sell mostly on Amazon, and on Amazon, it doesn't cost us anything to list anything. I can list 1 million items and not get charged anything, and the total fees per sale is pretty much similar. It's pretty much a wash if you're merchant fulfilling. And you still have like a store. It's not really as nice looking as an eBay store, but then again, how many of your customers are going through your store to find items? I think most of them are just going to eBay and going through the search and looking for items. So what is the selling point from you to us as sellers as to why do we need to pay to have an eBay store? I mean, obviously to gain traffic to the users that are on eBay, but I don't know, what do you have to say on that basically?
So we are a business, not a nonprofit. It's how we make money. And that's our business model, and it is different than Amazon, and we're happy it is. So there's a value proposition that every seller has to figure out for themselves for every marketplace. Is it worth it for me to sell here or to sell there? And knowing and understanding what are the costs, what are the benefits, is how you make a decision. We do not apologize for charging fees to sell on our site. We work really hard to send buyers. One of the first things I'll tell you as a differentiator, when you sell on eBay, we don't compete against you. If you sell on Amazon, and please do if it works for you, and you gain some level of success, your marketplace manager, Amazon, is watching that data, and they will push you out of business and compete with you. We will never do that.
That's a very good point, and I respect that.
That's a really good point.
Mic drop.
Yeah, something else that I feel like you guys, eBay has done a phenomenal job of creating a safe place for resale of any products. Amazon, on the other hand, is cracking down on the resale of a lot of different brands and giving brands a lot of control over how they're perceived and who sells their product. The direction you're going of, Griff, you used earlier, basically this is buy box, similar to Amazon's buy box. There's going to be a lot more eyeballs specifically on that page. And when there is ever a race to the bottom, brands are going to be disappointed that their one page for the Nest thermostat is now at half their map retail price.
There's nothing you can do about it.
I was going to say, to what extent do you guys intend to play nicely with brands in the same way that Amazon has, and how should we all prepare for increased scrutiny of what we can or cannot sell?
Great question.
Just don't let them push us around.
So a couple things on that. So with regards to brands, eBay's a marketplace, and if the brand wants to come in and sell direct in the marketplace, we welcome it. And we think it's actually good for the marketplace. We think it's good for the buyers. We actually think it's good for sellers in the marketplace. Because brands may choose to price their items differently at somebody who's reselling those items, or who's liquidating inventory or who's refurbished inventory. So there's a lot of different opportunities. So welcome brands in the marketplace. The other thing, and this is something that we've had for well over a decade, we actually like brands involved in our marketplace to ensure that counterfeit items aren't on the marketplace. We don't want counterfeit items on our marketplace, and so we have a program called the Verified Rights Owner Program that allows brands to come in and let us know when there are counterfeits. And so that's something that we actually feel it's important to partner with brands to ensure we've got a safe, clean marketplace for the buyers. That helps everybody in this room and makes for a great experience for the buyers.
Yeah, where is that access, the verified brand?
So if you did just a Google search on Verified Rights Owner, eBay, or if you just VERO, you'll pick it up.
Back to the, with the, obviously the new stores on here, is the fee illustrator still applicable, generally speaking?
For today, but it's soon gonna come down to be rebuilt.
Yeah. It doesn't include the other two tiers.
Right.
We're making a decision right now about what to do, it's still there, but with the addition of 2 new levels, the existing fee illustrator is not going to be accurate, so they're rebuilding a new tool.
Anything else on stores?
I got one more thing. I think you might need to check your sold items, Griff.
Why?
I just have a feeling.
I think your shirt's gone. I didn't hear it go cha-ching.
You gotta fix that alert.
He's got the volume on.
You bought that shirt?
You know I was only kidding. That is a beautiful shirt. It's a lovely piece of work. You will look so good in it. Thank you so much for the purchase.
It's a cancel order right there.
In this like slight transition.
I think you get a free phone call to Griff anytime over the next 12 months for any reason that you want to. Yeah.
Hey, that's a good purchase. Can I have a Griff bring me coffee in Portland? Come to Portland. Bring me coffee.
Come to Portland.
I just. You should. We would love to show you around Portland, Griff.
Yeah. Let's go. We'll do a road trip.
Yes, absolutely. You can bring that shirt.
Pickup, I have to have
You can change it to local pickup.
or I get a defective.
I have like a slight question and concern, and if this kind of gets to the people who kind of make the decision.
Shirt, it's okay.
So along item not as described for Griff. So along with structured data is the opportunity to make things very clear for the customer. And when things are very clear for the customer, the buying decision becomes more clear. Obviously, we want the customer to be confident and clear in their buying decision. When I see this single listing, I see the opportunity to take into account a more non-binary form of description or having a template, good, acceptable, very good, parts, whatever. And that would clear up so much where you could have a drop down and could eliminate, I'm looking for parts for my Nest. I can buy one that doesn't work and I can take parts off of it, So I don't know if there's any plans for that, but it would be awesome to integrate.
It's a great idea.
But in some ways it exists already, right?
Well, but not on the product page.
But down below was what's the condition of the item that you wanted?
But there's not one that says parts.
That would be salvage.
Well, there's only like new, used, and parts.
Refurbished.
Yeah, there's no way to distinguish between some kind of spectrum, so that somebody understands what they're getting, like, and the seller can have those metrics, Along with that structure, you can create something like that.
So we have structured data within the item condition. And the item condition varies by category.
Okay.
So you can imagine something like consumer electronics. There are actually some categories where, it's for parts. you can go see lots of for parts listings for
Oh, that's true.
phones.
Yeah.
Because we don't want someone just to say it's used, and the person thinking, oh, it's operational, when it's not operational. We want to make sure that buyer understands, actually, this is not an operational phone, but it still has value. And so for the person who's looking for the part, they'll be able to purchase it.
What my question is when I'm looking at this, I want to buy a Nest thermostat, right? And there's this block, this brick, and it's like, I want to buy it from this block. Is that the new block? Is there another block for the used block?
Yeah.
If you go back to that.
Well, I'm actually gonna go to Nest. So it was a Nest third generation.
There you go.
Okay, so let's go there. Then we'll look here.
So you're asking about the new experience, right?
Yeah.
So if you scroll down, there's brand new, refurbished, pre-owned.
And you should
Cool.
be able to- yeah.
Okay.
And there could be, top pre-owned, lowest price, and auction.
That's
So you would like to
excellent.
see one that said parts?
It's not about that. It's about having the customer experience so they can choose and that the listing is there, but you're already doing that. So I didn't see that there. I was asking that like a question.
See, that shirt is magic.
No, this is great. This is much better than what.
Yeah, I was thinking when we were showing the screenshot that we should go live because it's hard to see that in the screenshot. Yes.
I like the idea with parts, because I do sell parts as
So,
well.
in this particular category, I don't think that that's an array, so it's not showing up for an item where there are, so Apple iPhones, people sell those for parts, there would be a box down here that says parts, and then anyone who selected parts as part of the condition, for parts only, it would show up down here. Yeah, it's not every category that has it. I think Barbie dolls have it.
Can imagine,
It's fun to pull apart.
can imagine clothing when it needs one.
I don't get why, like, they pay their hour and day off.
Correct.
And then the next one's brand new, but it's at 174 with free shipping. So what, how did eBay pay that?
People on my live are like, why is it a horizontal?
They can't turn that camera.
No, I mean, it's
The
it's
scrolling
our
experience
pick.
for the conditions.
eBay picked that particular seller sold by electronics
Why not
for
just
like
stop that?
Data
How did-
everywhere and put
Like,
it into
why
one
aren't they
spot.
picking the one from
That's all
eBay?
I'm saying. It's just too much.
Down,
eBay
you know,
sometimes
when
is just
you're
like
looking
you're
at
saying, it's
how
like there's like 900 things to choose from, and I'm like, that I want that.
Let's look at this one.
I don't care who's selling it. If I'm protected by the platform, why do I care if it's you or me or y'all?
I think given the algorithm and given the testing that's going on, I don't think we can answer that question. Because I just don't think we're gonna know by being able to look at this. For all I know, Griff landed on an A/B test. That's a 1% test of the listing.
Look at the two sellers. The one with the lowest price, it's not the eBay pick, it's actually a newer seller with more feedback, so it might be picking a seller that's a little bit more established. I'm just guessing based on these two.
But originally,
So there's a lot of, so to Jonathan's point, Jonathan works on our mobile team.
This isn't the buying
There's a lot
experience,
of,
though.
there are a lot
This
of
is just
factors that
someone
go
says
into
that's
the
the buying
algorithm that
experience.
determines
Yeah.
what pushes it up.
And then this is the adjunct, right, which is the exact item. I like the idea.
Oh, wait, I just figured it out. Hold on, I want to make double sure.
70 feedback versus.
No, that's not it at all. Hold on. Oh, somebody bought it.
Yeah.
So that was a listing for one item, and this was, they're both listed by the catalog. This is an item that has previous sales. So it could be, you know, listing
Two sold.
impressions of, will push an item up in best match, and best match is part of this algorithm for the product page. That could be why that shows at the top. If you know how that works? So if you have, say you have 5 of these Nest thermostats, and you're selling them for $174, but you haven't sold any, and somebody who has the listing for, say 5, for $185 has sold 2. So the price is higher, but their past selling it's called sales over impression. So they've actually made sales of that item, that's important data for best match, that'll boost something up in search. And obviously, my guess is it's boosting it in the products page results as well.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So I really like that breakout with the condition. Basically, it's just like predetermined condition guidelines or whatever, which makes for a much better buying experience. You don't have to rack your brain and worry about stuff when you're buying. Is this exactly how it looks on mobile as well?
I don't think so.
I'm just curious, is this going to be horizontal scrolling on mobile, which is pretty much a vertical experience?
We do not allow, we avoid that like the plague.
So then this similar experience will be presented in a vertical scrolling fashion.
Yeah, probably laid out differently and probably more compressed. We don't do horizontal.
Good, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, they're not conditioned to it.
I find when I'm horizontally scrolling, I forget where I am. And then I walk away. And I didn't buy anything. That's how I always forget.
Are you still going to be able to have the filters to search the way you want to search?
Sure, so you can do that right now. So let's go to this where it says see all 224 brand new.
Okay.
Look familiar?
Okay.
So it's more of a portal into the inventory to help reduce, to make it more efficient for the buyer to find exactly what they're looking for.
But I'm going to have to search twice if I want to see the brand new ones and then go back and see all the used
Well,
ones.
you don't have to, you can go, you just click the back button on your page, right? And I can't do it right now. My thumb is too big. There, and you can start it from here.
But it's like okay, so never mind. We can still
You just navigate back and then say, well, I want to see all the refurbished, now we'll look at those.
But if I wanted to see all of them in the filter list, now I have to go either used or new as two separate.
Yeah, you have to do the old keywords.
Okay. It will still.
What are you threatening me? I have like 3 people.
So conscious of time, I want to hit 2 more, and these are controversial.
Oh, they are?
Okay, but that's cool.
So it's not a scroller, just
Yeah.
That's good. So while he's getting in there, I'm going to start to talk about returns. So from a buyer perspective on the eBay platform, sellers have a lot of variety from a return standpoint. So what we want to do starting in May is restrict the number of return options that sellers have to offer, while still giving sellers the ability to kind of manage the business as they want and see best for them. And so we're reducing so sellers will have options, and you can scroll down if you want. So you'll still be able to offer no returns. Does anyone offer no returns? For all of your items or some?
All of them.
So for those that do it for all, I would encourage you to do 2 things. Take a look at your competition and to see what they do, and test offering returns for 2 reasons. See what happens to your sale rate and see what happens to your return rate. And my assumption is your return rate is going to be less costly than your increase in sale rate. But it's a marketplace, you can test your way in. You don't have to do 100% of your inventory. You can choose to take 5% or 10% of your inventory and check returns. There are products that it makes perfect sense not to offer returns. And so so you'll still have the ability to offer returns. You'll have so if you can imagine clearance, in fact, I'll give a good example. I had a clearance item over the weekend. Is anyone into photography? I was selling a bestseller enlarger, and it was my father-in-law's. And so I was like, okay, this is not something I want to take a return on. And so that's something I did, no returns with a great deal. But you can do no returns. I would just, if you're here to if this is your business, the reality is in e-commerce, returns are standard. And so if you're not offering returns, I just encourage you to take a look at it. I'm going to jump into the 5 and you can scroll down because it's listed. And then, so it's no returns, 30-day buyer pays, 30-day free, 60-day buyer pays, 60-day free. So those are going to be your options as a seller. And for most sellers, these 5 options will meet the needs. There's a few exceptions for some category like collectibles, where 14-day will still be allowed. are permitted. For everybody else, this is, these are the options. And I would say today, 30-day returns is standard in e-commerce. And so that's, if you're not moving that direction or you haven't tried that, test it, try and move that direction.
I think though there are some exceptions.
Correct.
So there's
Collectibles, arts, cameras.
Product categories will still have 14-day returns as an option. Those are collectibles, art, cameras, photo, and medical mobility and disability equipment. Not sure why, but there they are.
There they are.
So, Alan has a question.
So I've been wondering this, like, do you get higher up in like the algorithm or whatever? If you, the more days you offer return, is it better for you as far as, you know, are you higher up? Are you more likely to make a sale because you're getting put higher up?
No, you're more likely to make a sale because buyers will avoid you like the plague if you don't take returns. I'm being honest, we do the research. The single biggest deterrent for people buying from a seller is if that seller says no returns. So there are buyers who will buy from you, but if you're saying no returns on your item and your competition is accepting returns, you are basically funneling customers to your competitor. You're saying, here, I don't want their money, so you take their money and I hope you're happy.
There's search filters for that too, right? There's search filters by returns, right?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. There's not, the algorithm for ranking and best match does not use returns as a factor. However, there is a search refinement on the side of every search result page for returns. And if a lot of buyers will filter their results by saying, just show me the listings where the seller takes a return, you've just been pushed out of the search results.
Do you have any metrics on that?
We can't share.
Okay.
But they're substantial. They were substantial enough for me that I would never, ever, ever say no returns. No, I would just never do it.
So for most sellers, the 5 options are going to meet their needs. And I think most sellers have already migrated to 30-day, or sellers have chosen, no, I'm not going to offer returns, so they're in the no returns. Couple other things that are changing. So anybody offer or request restocking fees?
I do now, yes.
So in the future, you're not going to be able to. It's effective May 1st. But if you offer 30-day free returns, you will have the ability to offer a partial refund. And what's an example of why you would offer a partial refund? Let's say you're selling consumer electronics and you have a brand new item in box and it's unopened, and you send it to the buyer, and the buyer opens it up and goes, you know, those speakers actually don't look great in my living room, so I want to send them back, and it's totally a remorse. They put it back in the box and they send it back to you. As a seller, you can no longer sell that item as new. And so that's a use case where a partial refund makes a lot of sense. And so you'll be able to do a partial refund to the buyer.
Up to 50%.
Up to 50%. And then the buyer, if the buyer disputes that, and you've offered free, if you do 30-day free or higher, 60-day free, that dispute will come to us, but we're not going to go back to you and you know, take that money back from you.
Yeah,
We'll decide whether or not we do anything with the buyer or refund them to keep them happy. But you as a seller are taken care of if you offer. But you have to offer 30-day free or 60-day free to get that benefit.
So that's huge.
The next,
If that's true.
well, actually, question.
They're taking
Do you
responsibility
track
for that.
serial returners?
Yes.
You got that on film?
No, they are, yeah.
Well, yes.
And they've said it several times.
So,
Remember that.
So one of the things, actually, I think the example of renting clothing is a really good one. So for me, if I think about where we're moving with this, so we're saying you can't do restocking fees, but let's say you sell a dress and the person brings the dress, sends you back dress, and the tag's now missing, and it's clear that they wore the dress because there's a red wine stain on the dress. So they clearly went out to a nice cocktail party, they wore the dress and they sent it back to you. If you're doing 30-day free returns, you can look at that and go, wow, I didn't actually get the item back that I sent to the buyer. I'm actually gonna give the buyer the partial refund. And you give the buyer the partial refund. Now, maybe that buyer is gonna be really upset, and so the buyer is gonna contact us or open a claim. We'll then adjudicate that claim through the normal claims process. But if you started off with 30-day free, you have the ability to do that, and there's some seller protections that I'll talk about in a second.
That's the biggest seller protection. The carrot, if you would, for offering free returns is that you will be able to, in any of those situations, decide a restocking fee up to 50% on a case-by-case basis. And once you make that decision, eBay is not going to preempt it. So if the buyer comes to eBay and says, they only gave me 50% of my money back, we'll deal with the buyer, and we may, depending on their history, give them the money. We may tell them, nah, you've done too many returns. You got to take a break. Or we may say, you've done so many returns, you're not welcome here anymore. But we're not going to come back to that seller who offered 30-day free returns and then say, you're going to have to give them all their money back. You make the decision, and we back you up.
With one caveat.
To that, which is, let's say you're a seller and you're doing returns, and 100% of your returns across, let's say, 1,000 returns, you're saying, oh, I'm only going to give 50%. What's the likelihood of that? Pretty close to zero. So obviously, we're going to be also looking at seller, but there's not a set. We'll learn our way into it, but a seller shouldn't be thinking, oh, this is an avenue for me to do this 100% of the time, whether I got the item back as I sold it, or whether I got the item back and it really was a borrowing situation. Don?
International free returns.
So international with free returns. So it comes back, well, non-GSP or, so actually it's domestic. This came up earlier today. So this is for domestic free returns. You don't have to offer free returns for international.
Right, in fact, that's another important thing I think is here. Starting in June, you'll have the ability to say, I want free returns for domestic, but not for international, and we'll back that up for you. So the only times that would be preempted is an item not described and they open up a case. But if it's a buyer or remorse case, you don't have to take the return if you don't want to. There's a good reason for that, by the way. It's more, it's not really customer service based, it's more logistics. It's really difficult today to figure out a way to actually recompense an international buyer with a shipping label. In fact, it's almost impossible right now. So, but not totally. So we may figure out a solution in the future, but until there's a solution, we're not going to put the onus on your heads.
Same with global shipping?
So global shipping is different. GSP is, if somebody buys it, it automatically becomes an international issue. So if they want to, you don't have to, you offer a free return for the item domestically, but the item is now shipped internationally, even though you domestically shipped it to Kentucky. So yeah, you're still be covered.
I think that was it for returns.
I have a quick question regarding collectibles and offering free top level sellers have to.
So sorry, let me take this and I'll come here.
There's another change to the top level sellers?
Yeah, so you have to offer 30-day free returns in order to qualify per item for the 10% top rated plus discount. So you don't have to do it to be top rated, but for your items that don't have 30-day free returns, you won't get a 10% final value.
So right now I have 30-day returns, but not free.
So you would not get a 10% discount on those.
If you chose, yeah, not to offer free.
And free means they just automatically start sending it back?
No, it means that you pay for the return shipping.
30-day free means you pay for shipping both directions.
But now by return, they have to contact me first.
So just so everyone can hear this, so the question was, she has 30-day free today, 30-day returns today. She earns top rated plus top rated plus. So there's top rated seller and then there's top rated plus. Top rated plus applies to at the item level. And if you have same day or one day handling, and today the standard is 30-day returns, you can earn up to a 10%, you can earn a 10% discount on your final value fees for that. Starting May 1st, the requirement will be same day or one day handling plus 30-day free returns in order to receive the 10% discount. So that'll be the new standard.
But do they still have to let you know that they're gonna return it?
So a buyer has to let you know that they're gonna return it. And so in essence, if you think about the process today, like you as a seller today may say, actually, rather than send it back, let me send you a label because it's cheaper. Or send them a new one, right? But I think if you're offering, remember, if you have to offer 30-day free, if you choose to exchange the item instead of have them send it back for free, you've offered 30-day and there's been a transaction. So you're gonna get the 10% discount.
No. So it's from the listing level, not from the post-transaction level. So if you've listed the item with 30-day returns but not free.
I said 30-day free returns.
Oh, if you list it with 30-day free returns, right, then you're cool, but no matter what you do. But if you list it for 30 days and the buyer pays, and then the buyer, you decide, well, maybe I'll pay for it, that's great, but you're not gonna get the 10% because it's determined on the listing end of it, not on the sale end of it. So once post-sale, you can't change that for a particular listing. I know probably, I'm gonna ask a question, and you can answer it, either raising your hands or not. I'm not going to do free returns that's gonna put me out of business. Raise your hands.
30-day free will put you out of business, raise your hand.
Because this has put you out of business in the past? Or is it an assumption? What's your return rate right now?
Just one. I mean, I have a very low volume, but
Okay.
if I'm shipping like glass and heavy things that cost a lot to shipping,
Right.
That's gonna cost me a lot to pay for them to return.
On a transaction basis.
Especially if I'm getting a fairly low profit.
Do you ever wonder how big businesses mitigate the cost of those returns? Well, yeah, they do, but that's not the factor. Because it doesn't matter if you're big or small, you can self-insure against returns if you utilize your numbers. So every year, you should be recording the data for your business. We talk about this a lot. If you're gonna run a business that's generating the income that you need to survive, you need to manage that business within an inch of its life. And that means following every single metric and every number you have, tracking it so that you understand how your business is doing. Think of it as a machine, and there's a bunch of meters on the machine that tell you things like the temperature of the oil inside, like it's a car, how much gas is left, how many miles you've driven. All of those are metrics for a car or a vehicle. You have metrics for your business, and you need to pay attention to them and track them so that you can utilize tests to determine whether the test is effective. One of the biggest misconceptions among sellers that I talk to is that if I offer free returns, I'm going to get inundated with return requests, which makes the assumptions that there are legions and legions of buyers out there who are looking for free return situations so they can go through the hassle of finding an item, spending the money, getting the item, and going, great, now I'm going to return it because that gives me such a thrill. And that's just not the case. Pierre started this business on a premise which has been proven over 22 years to be true. People are basically good. People who shop on eBay like the idea and rely on the confidence that a seller is going to take an item back if they're not happy with the item or if there's something wrong with it. But it takes a crazy person to say, I shop on eBay just so I can return the items. And in fact, there was a study that was published, I believe, in Huffington Post, but I'm not absolutely sure. I've referenced it before. Very solid scientific study of the data that shows that when retail merchants offer a free return shipping option with an extended window past 2 weeks, they actually notice their sales go up and their return rate either fluctuate just a little bit up and in some cases goes down. And there's many reasons that they determine that this happens. It kind of goes against what a lot of people would automatically assume. But for a longer return window, this is what happens. We talk to buyers and they confirm this. A lot of buyers will say, oh, I just bought this plate, it isn't exactly what I want. Oh, I'm gonna wanna return it. Oh, I got 60 days or 30 days, I'll return it later. And then a week later they go, it's actually not that bad. And then 2 weeks later they go, I like this plate, I think I'm gonna keep it. You give somebody enough time, that can happen. When you give a 7 or 14-day window, they're going, oh, I gotta get it in the mail right away. Actually, shorter return windows result in more and a higher return rate overall. Yes, I know I'm talking too much, but.
Hi, I just have a quick question as strictly a clothing seller. I did take returns for a while, and I was up to like a 6% return.
That's about average.
Okay, but for me, that's not doable. I stopped taking returns, and my sales are better than they were before.
Well, then you're disproving everything I've said. So.
Well, obviously it's anecdotal, and I know that. But I think for clothing, the return issue is that people are quote.
Our data doesn't support this. I'm sorry, it just does not support it.
And the other thing is, unfortunately, they're not reading listings. That's a big problem, is I put detailed measurements for every piece of clothing that I sell.
Yeah.
And people return things because they don't fit.
94% of your buyers are not returning your items.
I absolutely, you're right. But how can is there anything we can do to help buyers to more blatantly see the listing and look at all the listings and look at all of the photos and not just one photo and purchase from that?
So, well, for clothing, that's hard. Structure not the answer, but guess what I sell? Clothing. My return rate fluctuates during the year, but on the year average, it's around 3 to 5%, which I'm very happy with. I mitigate the cost of returns by self-insuring using my data. And that's what I was going to get to before and I stopped. I'll give you an example just to make it clear. Let's say I had 1,000 transactions last year, and I look to be on track to have 1,000 or so transactions this year. That seems like it might happen again. If not, I'm going to have to make some readjustments to this formula. But it's a baseline formula I'm going to start with. My cost for accepting returns last year was $100. And that's for any shipping I paid for items I couldn't resell, for items I had to give a discount. And again, I'm using simple numbers so it's easy to understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to anticipate that I'm going to have 1,000 items and I'm going to take maybe 10 more items back. My return rate may be the same. Using that data, I can divide the $100 cost by 1,000, transact, get what? 10 cents. I'm going to add 10 cents to the margin column in my bookkeeping for every single listing I put on eBay. And it's going to be a dedicated column that says self-insurance for returns. And it's going to say 10 cents all the way down. Over time, I may adjust it. Excel's great at this. You can change the whole column. Say I'm monitoring my return rate and it's dropping. I'm thinking, well, maybe I don't need to add 10 cents. Or it's raising. Maybe I got to put 20 cents now to really cover it. Now, anytime someone returns something, the last thing I'm thinking about is, ooh, it's going to cost me money because I'm self-insured. So I happily please the customer. I'm not worried about the onus of the cost because I'm self-insuring in my books so that it is covered, and I can move on to the next customer and keep offering free returns. That's exactly what big retailers do. And you don't have to have millions and millions of dollars to do it. You can do it if you sell one item a month. And it works. And then you can cover your return costs.
Just a comment. Just a comment. I think the best way to approach this, and as a seller on eBay, is, I mean, we all are consumers, right? Yeah. So based on that, I mean, I know when I shop, I mean, even if something doesn't fit, I'm so damn lazy, I don't even return it. I mean, I'll hand it to a friend. So, I mean, I don't know. In my opinion, I think a 6% return rate really isn't that bad. Yeah.
So I'm very conscientious of time, and I know there's a number of hands up. I want to touch on one last thing very quickly, and we can come back to returns, and I promise. One thing I want to add to what Griff just said. Remember, you gave the example of you changed and went to no returns, and it's better for your business. Every one of you is an individual business owner. So please, nice thing about the marketplace is you can test. You can test free returns, you can test 30-day returns, you can test 60-day returns, and decide which works best for you from a margin standpoint and in your business. I just want to highlight seller protections. So, and we kind of touched on this, offering free returns, you're going to be protected by us. And then we'll also, you know, help you. I think the key thing on this is, if you do 30-day free returns or 60-day free returns, expect us to have your back. Like, that should be the starting point as you think about it. So if the buyer's claiming that you know, they didn't get the item, or if they're returning something and you're doing the partial refund, expect us to have your back. And I think that's the key thing to think about from the seller protection if you're offering 30-day free, which is one of the reasons why you're going to want to offer 30-day. I'm very conscious of the time, and since we're pushing up against the hour, and I think what maybe we'll do is open it up just for general questions if folks have them. I have to leave at the top of the hour, but I think Alan's still going to be here, Griff's still going to be here.
Why do you have to leave, Brian?
I have to do something that I swore 8 years ago I would never do.
And what would that be?
Take a red eye. So I have to be in Akron, Ohio tomorrow afternoon, and there aren't any direct flights to Akron, Ohio, and so me and Doug actually are on our way there for a program that's actually really exciting. It's called Retail Revival, and we're actually going to meet with 120 sellers in Akron who are Main Street type sellers to get them on eBay as leveraging eBay as a platform for them to sell. So really excited to actually be going, and why I'm willing to do a red eye. It's very exciting. So we'll go questions, and so, you know.
Just real quick, for this, .crp, right? So my question is, for the partial refund, does it have to be like a damaged item? I mean, what if it's like, oh, an item doesn't fit, or it's just too big, or whatever?
So for partial refund?
I can't do partial refund, or can I?
So if you offer 30-day free, you can offer a partial refund. Now,
It doesn't fit, or if it's damaged?
so if the buyer says it doesn't fit, I would not be doing a partial refund on that. I don't think that, who would want that as a buyer? Nobody would want that. Put yourself in the buyer's shoes. But if the buyer's worn the item, as the example was,
That's
borrowing,
fine. I mean, that makes sense, absolutely.
or if they've opened the box because it's a consumer electronics item and you can't resell it as new, those are areas where it makes complete sense. But if someone's just saying, actually, I thought it was darker blue than what actually turned out to be, my expectation is the seller would say, send it back.
Yeah, you can't punish buyers for everything. You'll lose your business.
And you're gonna be worried about issues every day that take you away from focused on what you really should be focused on, which is, how do I grow my business? Every business owner is going to have an issue at some point. You gotta think forward.
Okay, I have a question about this. If you have a buyer that agrees to pay the price that you advertise, sends the money, everything's fine, he gets it, and then immediately returns it without opening, and you ask him why, he says, well, I found it with another eBay seller for 20 bucks less. Is that a legitimate reason to accept a return? Are there conditions that you can say, hey, no, I'm not gonna take that back?
No, it's either or. You either accept returns or you don't. So you can't say you accept returns and then say, I don't accept a return in this particular case.
Okay. So, in other words, the buyer has no restrictions. He can return it for any reason they want.
Yeah. And they may say, I found it cheaper somewhere else. It happens. You've got the item back. You've got the item back in its original condition.
Right, but you have to pay the return.
Well, if you're doing free returns, you don't pay for you pay for the free return, but you can, I mean, in that case, it's up to you. If you want to give a partial refund of, like, say, 90% or whatever you think is reasonable, that's accurate.
Ultimately, it's a business choice. And
It's a business choice.
We'll go.
So with the talk about the returns and the general thoughts that, you know, the buyer is good, people are good, you know, she had 1 return, she has 6% return. What are the returns overall on the platform? What percentage is that?
We don't provide that data.
So it's low single digits, but remember that certain, you know, she sells clothing. We all know, and most of the people in clothing would say it's going to be higher than low single digits. There are other categories where it's below 1%. depending on the item. You know, if it's something brand new, in box, very standard product, you're not likely to see returns from it.
Yes.
Hi, I actually just had a very quick question about this last part with respect to protection for late shipments. I've noticed two problems. One is that when I'm shipping USPS a lot of times, they don't actually do the final scan.
The final or the first?
The final. So I've had arrivals, deliveries, but they're marked as late. So I've had things that were Christmas gifts that are still shown as being
Right,
unripe.
the delivery shouldn't matter if you have a scan that shows that you handed the item to the mail carrier in your stated handling time. So if there is an acceptance scan, it doesn't matter for you're protected. If the item arrives late, we don't hold you responsible.
Okay, because I noticed that on one, so maybe I just need to contact customer service. The other is, I hate to say it, Florida. You know, severe weather, same issue. What is your expectation? It's actually a program in place that kicks in whenever there's a natural disaster, a storm, a hurricane, a wildfire. For example, what happened in Houston and Florida. Sellers are protected in those areas from not being able to ship. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is I'll just follow up with customer service.
And on that one, when it's weather related, Seller News is a great place to go look to see what the information is.
And we do it automatically based on a wide range of zip codes in the affected area. And we've gotten really good at it over the years.
So I'm going to actually step out, but I know that there's raffle and there's probably some additional questions. I just want to say thanks to everyone for the questions and such, but remember, if you've got any additional questions, tomorrow on the discussion boards, there'll be people answering questions. Griff, I think you're on eBay for Facebook, eBay Live on Facebook tomorrow as well. And so we think the changes that we've implemented are going to be beneficial to the marketplace, which ultimately means beneficial to you as sellers. But at the same time, we want feedback. And so please continue to give us feedback on this. And I'm going to step out, and Griff, it's all yours. There goes Laurel and Hardy.
So safe flight. Don't bother these flight attendants. Be a good boy.
Great job. Good trip. Thank
Yes,
you so
go
much
ahead.
for coming out. It was really good. Thanks for having me out. I'm gonna.
Are you guys next month or the radio show provider in the PayPal?
No.
See something in your.
We're not going to be talking about that until, that is a corporate issue, and Corpcom dictates when and what we can say about that, because it's very legal. So when it comes to what details that we're going to talk about for payment intermediation, we have no information beyond what's been released. That will be released by eBay Corporate, and when it's released, then we can talk about it. But we don't have a schedule of that.
Do we know when that's going to take place?
We don't have a schedule for that. Okay. Any other questions before we start our raffle? We got all this great merchandise to raffle.
Just on that point about payments intermediation.
Why don't you go pick them?
We will actually.
Pass those out.
Sorry. We will actually tomorrow on the community, so community.ebay.com, the site that we're showing. There will be a webinar next week, the first week of March, where Bob Cummins and our VP of Payments is going to talk about payment intermediation. So there will be information available in the next 2 weeks. So I'd say check out community.ebay.com. There'll be a link to register for the webinar tomorrow.
Okay, let's raffle. Who wants to be our picker?
We'll see you next time. Have a good night. Yeah, no worries. Say hi to YouTube.
And I'll just repeat the number. Get your tickets out.
Hey, Reezy.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you? Say hi to YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
Yeah,
this girl.
Hi, YouTube. My name's Nicole State. I host a YouTube channel called State's Place. You can find me if you want.
They don't want to watch that.
I know, it's trash. I sell trash.
What is it?
She sells her granddad's clothes.
You want some of my trash, girl? I want some of my trash. $197. $197. $196.
Because, yo, I don't want that stuff back.
I really don't. Hi!
No returns. I don't, no returns in my store.
No return.
But do you want to shout out your store or no?
No, not really.
Okay. It's
As
too
long as
good
you
for
don't
you.
buy something to return. Looking at my souls and comps.
It's too good for you guys. You guys are gonna mess up the conversion rate.
Give us feedback and then tell Griff he's got to come back.
We're in a good home. Our next number,
Mary.
Nancy's going to pick something up and show it off.
Say hi to you.
Vanna White. Look at this lovely roller.
Who's on there?
69 people. I've been holding my phone up for 90 minutes.
I know, like
Monica, come back. That wasn't long enough.
222.
Oh my God.
Karen Valentine.
Dang, look at this eBay backpack, guys. Check this out. That is a nice
Our next
backpack.
item is a lovely eBay thingy thing bag. Stick something in there. I don't know what it is happening.
Let me see the backpack, Henry.
It's gray with
Look at that.
the
That thing
eBay
is
logo
nice.
in pink.
You gonna sell it on eBay?
204. 204. Our next item is a beautiful
Thank you so much.
186. 186. That's you. Come on up. You got your prize. You gotta come and see.
What I win? Ooh, karma.
It's a bitch.
It is.
And here's a yellow, what does it say?
Yeah. I donated a couple water bottles to the raffle for you guys.
Beautiful yellow water bottle is 193. 193. 193 going once. You gotta run up to the front here. Congratulations, you'll never be dehydrated again. And this is a eBay, what is it made out of, Nancy? Ceramic, porcelain. It's eco-friendly, as you can put your hot or cold beverage in there. It's 71, the winner. 171. 171, here he is.
20 of you guys are slipping on smashing the like button.
He's found his
I would
bliss.
really appreciate it.
It's a green thing that you unzip it and it turns into a canister. Like a beach bag. Got the old eBay logo, highly collectible, highly contagious, 216. 216. My garage is a little cleaner. And the next item up is, oh yeah, this is a recent thing. This is a beautiful eBay police blanket that was given to employees, and I'm giving mine to you. And the number is 182. 182. 182 just won the blanket, and she's so happy.
Awesome. Do you need the ticket? Thank
As
you.
God is your witness, she'll never be cold again. And the next thing, feedback stars. These are from eBay Live like 2003 or 4. They were sold in the store at eBay Live. Old logo, hard to find, really collectible. 181 takes them. 181. 181.
Yay!
Let your dogs chew them up. You'll be protected from feedback. Well, I love this. You want to look at once? So here's 2 items. One is a very butch pink lunch bag, and the other is a very, very Bozo the Clown eBay wire. And the number who's going to get these 2 is 228. 228. 228. Going once. Going twice. 228. You lose. 184.
I'm gonna get it, Brian.
Run up here. What else is in there? We're almost done. Now this is a lovely old logo eBay backpack. I bought a lot of these thinking I'd need them someday, and as it turns out I don't. So they're yours. This is going to 213.
Watch my last video with the Deal Queen. We talk about Poshmark.
213 going once. Okay, you gotta really, when you hit it, go, bingo! You're welcome. Here's another one of those things. 210 gets these things.
There you go.
And our next item is a ceramic mug with a cover. It's stuck inside. Again, suitable for any beverage. 211, 211.
Back to back.
And the lights are coming down, so it's last call. Pair up and go home. Another water bottle dedicated by the guy who donated them. Sorry. 183. 183. 183 going once, 183 going twice. Quickly, or we'll give it away.
Another one.
Yeah. An eBay Live bag and an eBay mug with the old logo black and white. This is going to 227. 227. Joey takes it home. We're almost at the end here. Another lunch bag, and it's an old eBay radio speaker. So highly collectible, the old eBay radio.
How are you doing?
Good.
I haven't met you before. Reezy. Nice to meet you.
We're hoping we'd win your water bottle.
Oh, so some of my people on here gotta say hi to you. So you guys gotta say hi to everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Internet Land.
Hey, make sure you guys watch 50 Business Thursday.
That's your YouTube channel?
Yes, it's Jason T. Smith's channel.
Oh, awesome. Are you on it?
Yep, co-hosted this Thursday.
Awesome. So make sure you guys tune in. Support the community. They said you're really funny.
Hilarious.
They also liked your hat. They said they liked your
Dude,
hat.
he rocks
Here,
this
check
hat.
that hat out. Garb Safari, ladies and gentlemen.
203 going once, 203 going twice. Next number, 209. 209.
Oh, that's me. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Look at this, you guys.
So I don't know if you know Alexis Greenberg. She says, "What's up, Dawn?"
Oh, yeah.
We drank at Smuggler's Cove in August. Hey, Alexis.
220. 220. You just bought eBay all over the place. Is there anything else?
Yes, we have Girl Scout cookies.
Girl Scout cookies here at Commitments. Oh, 176. 176 for a box of Fitments. You should be sprinting. Best frozen. What else you got in that bag here, Nancy?
Okay, we got. Oh my God.
Okay, let's
98 minutes.
Okay, this box of cookies, 198.
Wait.
198 going once. 198 going twice. 198 is gone. Next number.
That's posh here.
225. 225. Box of cookies. 225. Okay, now let us know. Jump up all excited. Next box of
Hi,
cookies
Monica.
is
Bye,
my
Monica.
favorite, the Samoas. 221. 221 for a box of Samoas. Unopened, original, in the box. Next box of cookies is 180. 180. And get your box of cookies. And the next box, the last box, is 177. And they're those shortbread cookies that are so delicious. 177. You got it. Diane got it. And extra bonus, all of those Girl Scout cookies have been run through the decalorizer. There's no calories in those cookies. I thought we just sold them. Yeah, right, this is how we're gonna get rid of it. And we're done. Thank you for attending our meetup. We hope to see you next time. Don't go away.
Thank you. Thank you for answering my question.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
So, I'm live on YouTube right now, and you got a lot of fans on here.
I do?
Specifically, my friend Brian from Chicago.
Oh, Brian, yeah.
It's just the Oak Brook picker.
Oh, sure, yeah.
He said I got to give you a hug.
Okay.
This is from Brian.
Hi, Brian. Hi, YouTube. Glad you could make it. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we made it. Yeah, you don't see Amazon doing this for their sellers.
You never will.
Nope. You played yourself, Amazon.
If you're interested in meeting any of the muckety mucks,
I don't. I don't have
come and
cards.
join us from 5 to 7 on Thursday.
But you can find me anywhere. Reezy Resells, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter.
Oh yeah, dude, I watch you all the time.
Yeah.
I watch you all the time.
I only take them when I go random places, not when I'm going like internet related places,
Yeah. Are
because
you
I feel like everyone knows.
Chris's thing? His
Reseller fan?
Yes.
I think so. I just need to make sure I get it down.
I know, dude.
Awesome.
Lucky.
Look at, she won one of my
Dude,
bottles.
I want this. I so want this.
Now you can
And I
hustle
follow you on
hydrated.
Instagram. Thank you very much
Thank you.
for everything.
Well, let me know and I can send you one. But
Yeah. Dude.
especially if you drink with it on your
Oh,
show with
I
Jason.
will so hook him up.
Networking, guys.
Oh my God, it's so good to see you.
Anyways, my arm is so tired. I've been holding this phone up for 101 minutes. So smash the like button, please, because my arm is sore right now. My right arm is super sore, okay? I don't even know if it's gonna unbend. But remember, if you guys wanna see cool stuff like this, subscribe to my channel, smash the like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video, okay? Peace out. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Alexis, for moderating the chat. And thank you to everybody here in the community. Because that's what it's all about, community. Peace, guys.